The Menendez family putting out this statement criticizing the DA for that. They say discrediting the brothers' trauma. Here with us is former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Jeremy Eldridge. Jeremy, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I want to ask, what do you make of the district attorney saying he does not back the Menendez brothers' petition? Does that surprise you at all?
Not at all. Traditionally, across the country, what we're used to seeing is prosecutors trying to preserve the integrity of convictions that their offices have secured. Most prosecutors are not going to be rapidly trying to undo convictions, because then you have to deal with the victims and the victims' representatives. So what's going on today is not at all surprising.
I have to ask you about that crucial piece of evidence as well for the brothers' push, that the letter from Eric Menendez described pretty explicitly the sexual abuse from their father. Hochman says it doesn't seem credible. Like I said, this was a crucial piece of evidence. How critical could that be to the brothers' push for freedom and then finally getting out of jail?
That's a great question. And there are two reasons why DA Hochman is coming out publicly to say this. Number one is that Alex Cano testified in the second trial following the mistrial, and he testified for 7 hours detailing the alleged abuse that both Menendez brothers told him about. So in the second trial, the jury already had the opportunity to hear about a lot of this evidence. The second issue is that the affidavit from Rosalo, that individual has passed away. That individual can't be talked to determine whether even some of his information is credible. So when we're looking at the standard here, the standard is timeliness. Was this information turned over when it was found? Well, the letter's from 2018 and we're in 2024 when the filing is made. Is it admissible in court? Well, it's an out-of-court statement. It's a hearsay. So can that document itself be admitted at a new trial if they're given one? And material, is it material to their defense? Well, if the jury already heard a lot of this information and wasn't persuaded by it, then would the letter make a palpable difference? And that's the analysis that's being done currently.
And thank you for that context. I was a little confused about why that letter may not be submitted. The Menendez brothers joined a new podcast. It's called Two Angry Men. It features TMZ's Harvey Levin and the brothers' lawyer, Mark Garagos. I want to play Eric Menendez talking about who he was before he committed the shooting.
I grew up in an affluent home. I was a spoiled brat. I had deep insecurity issues and tried to hide those issues, and I was taught that you do it through the best clothes or the best car or whatever of those things that we now know is completely dysfunctional and frankly just a sign of internal pain.
He's open, he sounds vulnerable. How will the brothers' sense of remorse and personal growth factor into the judge's decision on vacating their case completely?
Well, we know there are three parallel tracks that are being pursued by the brothers now. Whether he has changed, matured, and rehabilitated really is only applicable to two of these tracks, which is clemency, which falls at the feet of the governor, which has really been pending for almost a year now with Governor Newsom, and the second track, which is the potential resentencing, which is scheduled for next month. But that motion can only be pursued by the state's attorney's office and by the court, both of which have already filed their motions, and the current DA is reevaluating. But they're going to look at the entirety of what's called his base file, which is his prison file. Has he engaged in programming? It's not just me saying, I've changed, I'm a better person, I was privileged then, and I've done so much to turn my life around. It's what have you done while you're incarcerated? Have you gotten in any trouble? Have you actually involved yourself in education? Have you been involved in mentoring programs? That's what they're looking at to see whether you've actually evolved, not just taking you at your word.
Thank you for that, Jeremy. Let's switch gears to another high-profile case, the Mangione murder. You heard Alicia discussing the trial. The big factor in court yesterday was whether Mangione would appear in shackles during the trial for the shooting of CEO Brian Thompson. As Alicia mentioned, the crowds of supporters could be heard inside. I've been to these hearings. There are just women holding signs asking Luigi to marry them. Can you talk about the challenge now of finding an impartial jury in this case?
First of which, just to say this, no one is ever unshackled. As a defense attorney 15 years, everyone stays cuffed for these hearings. It's a security issue. With regards to the $500,000, here's what's troubling about it. It's not the fact that they're being able to raise all this money to help somebody who's already of means essentially defend their case. Here's the issue. Look at who showed up for court. Look at who is waiting outside from him. If you get young people on that jury that believe in the ideal that he was representing when he potentially committed this murder, that's what the prosecution's fighting against. This is the prosecution of a man versus the prosecution of an ideal. And if Luigi Mangione can continue to have this prosecution of an ideal be the forefront of his defense and convince one juror that their distaste for the state of healthcare in this country or the inability of healthcare to care for young people, which is representative of the exact population that's showing up to support him, he could have a shot at a mistrial here. And that's going to be a giant problem for the prosecution in this case.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.